welcome to the next week. I've officially lost all count of what week we're on. So this week we did Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. Let me show you the book. Boom. Here's my review. Okay, so for our synopsis for Me Before You, we have Will Traynor, and if anyone has a perfect life, it's Will. He's athletic, good-looking, successful, filthy rich, and he's an adventurer. He has done more and seen more and probably been more places in his 33 years than we will ever do in our entire life. Louisa Clark, on the other hand, is plain-looking. She's completely content to live in her small village outside of London, content to work at the Buttered Bun Cafe for the rest of her life. She's content to live in the box-shaped room in her parents' home, constantly living in the shadow of her younger sister. And she's content in a 7-year-long relationship that's going nowhere. She's barely stepped further than her own doorstep. Two events bring these two people together, two separate events. One being Louisa loses her job, and the second being Will gets hit by a motorcycle and loses all motor movement from his chest down. This is where our story begins. Louisa is reluctant but happy to accept a job that pays far more than her old one at the Buttered Bun, even though she has no experience in caregiving. But Will is less than thrilled with his brand new, very talkative, very cheerful new caregiver, Louisa. So that's how far I'm going to go with the synopsis. I don't really want to give anything else away. I don't want to give away the ending of this book. I can tell you that it was very sad, because I think you can figure, if you've watched the trailer for the movie, that it's going to be pretty sad. So it's a sad book. Don't expect it to be happy. For character development, I am giving Me Before You a 5 out of 5. The characters are realistic. I wouldn't say they're easy to relate to, especially Will. I mean, how do you relate to a quadriplegic who's in a wheelchair when you're not a quadriplegic in a wheelchair? So I would say that you can't really relate to that aspect, but I think that many of us, especially in our early 20s, like Tegan and I, can relate to how Louisa might feel. She feels like she's going nowhere. She's 27 years old. She feels like she hasn't accomplished anything. She hasn't done anything extraordinary with her life. And for the most part, for the beginning of the book, she's content to be that way. Will, on the other hand, who's slightly older, in his 30s, enjoys life so much that the fact that it's been snatched from him so suddenly and terribly has been just absolutely soul-wrenching for him. It's just unbearable. For plot, I'm also giving it a 5 out of 5. I think this is a fantastic plot. It made me think so much. I thought about everything when it came to this book. What would I do in this situation? How might they be feeling? What kind of decisions might I make? Would I feel as depressed as Will if I were him? There's just, it's so much thinking. It's deep stuff. I've also never really encountered a plot like this, so I was really interested in where this was going to go and how it was going to end. For writing style, I'm giving it another 5 out of 5. It was written really well. The plot was well developed. The characters were well developed. The emotion was there. The writing was fantastic. The writing style was really fantastic. It switches point of view a few times, but it never switches into the point of view of Will. So if it was the same book from his perspective, that would be really interesting. Just a thought. Readability is a 5 out of 5. Pretty simple, easy read. There's nothing really that stops you from reading straight through it. The only time I ever had to put the book down was because of intensity and maybe a little anxiety. Next is the cover. This is the cover. So I'm giving the cover a 4 out of 5. I really like the bright red, but I think it's kind of plain. I think it could have been a little bit more. It doesn't really reflect the inside of the book, the cover. It doesn't reflect the intensity and the story and the what's going on inside of the book. It doesn't really reflect that. So I think that maybe that could have been a little bit better, but for the most part, it's still pretty eye-catching. The color is eye-catching, the font's eye-catching. Most of the reason why Tegan and I even read it was because it was becoming a movie and we had heard about it. So it wasn't that we just saw the book and picked it up. So I'm not sure if I was walking around a bookstore if I would just pick up the book. But I still gave it a 4 out of 5 for cover. So last is enjoyment, and I also gave it a 4 out of 5 for enjoyment. I gave it a 4 out of 5, not a 5 out of 5, because even though I enjoyed how well it was written, I enjoyed the story, the ending and some of the stuff that happened was just so frustrating for me. I kind of hated Will a little bit at the end of the book, and then I hated myself for hating Will because I'm terrible, and that's a terrible thing to do. But so at that point, the thinking of the situation and the contemplating and the disliking Will when I shouldn't dislike Will, yeah, I still enjoyed it. Just those parts were kind of frustrating. So the total for Me Before You is around like a 4.7 out of 5. So a very, very good book. I recommend it. I think you should all read it and try it out for yourself and see what you feel. We will be reviewing The Queen of the Tearling next, so stick around for those videos. They'll probably be coming out pretty soon, actually. Also, don't forget to check out our links. Tegan and I both have Instagrams. Also, we have Goodreads, so we'll place all those links down below. Please like, subscribe, comment, give us suggestions. Let us know how we're doing. If there's a book that you want us to review or a suggestion you have, please let us know. Thanks. Bye, guys.